We're stepping into a world defined by a mountain, strict beliefs, and a really profound journey of self-discovery.
And we're doing that today through the lens of specific passages you've shared with us from Tara Westover's memoir, Educated.
Exactly. It's powerful material.
It really is. And our mission today is to delve directly into these chosen excerpts, pulling out the key nuggets of knowledge and insight revealed by the author's own words.
Right, a targeted exploration.
Yeah.
And these passages, they immediately throw us into this, well, unique reality.
Mm-hmm.
One of the very first things we see is this fundamental conflict over education. We read about Dad's absolute opposition to public school.
Yeah, seeing it as, what was the phrase, a ploy by the government?
To ploy by the government, yeah, to draw children away from God. He even says he might as well surrender my kids to the devil himself. Strong words.
Incredibly strong, and contrasted so sharply by Grandma's view, right? Wanting the kids in school rather than...
roaming the mountain like savages.
Exactly. That phrase alone just captures the isolation, the unconventional nature of their life up there.
And Dad's beliefs, they just shape everything. These pages show his religious revelations driving action.
Like that memorable scene waving his Bible.
Yes, explaining the sinfulness of milk to his cousin Jim, the dairy farmer.
You can almost picture it, the manure Jim slides past, that collision of, fervent belief in this very practical, earthy reality.
It's vivid, and this world on Buck's Peak, around the junkyard, the farm.
Yeah.
It's portrayed not just as a setting, but as a place inherently marked by danger.
Yeah, the risks seem to be everywhere in these descriptions. Searching for a lost calf near sheer cliffs.
Right, encountering feral horses, rattlesnakes.
There's this constant awareness that the text puts it as things could go horribly wrong on the mountain.
And that environment, that sort of background hum of danger, it fuels their preparations for the days of abomination.
Mm-hmm. The stockpiling.
We read about spending warm months bottling fruit for storage, Dad coming in from the junkyard looking uneasy.
Insistent they get everything in order.
There was little time, that urgency.
And it's even linked to an event the narrator would later learn was famous.
The Weaver's incident.
Yes, these passages introduce the Weaver's incident, referring to Ruby Ridge as something Dad talked about, giving it a specific meaning within their family's worldview, before she understood the wider context.
It really shows how external events were filtered through their unique belief system, doesn't it?
Definitely.
Okay, let's shift gears a bit and look at Mother's role, because these excerpts show quite a significant transformation for her.
They do. They start by describing her training as a midwife, and it's stated very clearly: no license, no certificates.
Right. She was a midwife entirely by the power of her own say-so.
And those initial experiences were clearly very difficult for her. She came home, the text says, so pale she seemed translucent.
Saying it was awful, I can't do it.
The dad pushed her, didn't he? Framing it as a calling from the Lord.
Yeah, that sometimes the Lord asks for hard things. A lot of pressure.
And that pressure connects directly to Dad's vision of self-reliance, wanting to be completely off the grid, ready for the end of days.
Her midwifery was essential to that plan, so she could deliver the grandchildren when they came along.
There's a particularly revealing scene in these passages, the ambulance incident.
Oh, right, where she drives recklessly, gets a police escort.
And then in the ER, she deliberately performs this, well, the text calls it a scatterbrained woman routine.
Asking the dumbest question she could think of.
Yeah. It's described as a calculated move, right? To seem harmless, avoid suspicion for practicing without a license.
And her later take on it is fascinating, as quoted here. Men like to think they're saving some brain-dead woman. All I had to do was step aside and let him play the hero.
It reveals a certain shrewdness, a deliberate manipulation of those expectations.
And this incident, it feels like a precursor to her shift towards energy work and muscle testing, which is also described.
Exactly. That scene with Susan, Richard, and the narrator forming a human chain, drawing from everyone's energy, it illustrates that move towards an alternative, sort of family-defined system of healing.
The theme of education, or really the lack of formal education, is so central here. Receiving a birth certificate much later in life.
It felt oddly dispossessing, the passage says.
Yeah, that first legal proof of personhood coming so late, it speaks volumes about their detachment from, well, official society.
And the early struggle over school was described as a real battle between mother and dad.
Mother trying to teach, dad herding the boys off to the junkyard.
And ultimately, the text says mother lost that battle.
Some key moments in that shift include Luke's learning disability and mother's frustration. We read her conclusion.
All that really matters is that you kids learn to read.
Right. That other twaddle is just brainwashing. So formal education just gets dismissed as external brainwashing.
Yet, within all this, we see Tyler pushing back, don't we?
Yeah, quietly. He buys a trigonometry textbook.
Then seeks out calculus, and the skepticism he faces is palpable in the text. You can't teach yourself calculus, it's impossible.
But Tyler's quiet determination really shines through in his reply. Quoted here. Give me a book. I think I can.
It's powerful, and the passages show the arguments with Dad over studying versus work.
Dad yelling, "What the hell are you doing?"
Countered by Tyler stammering, "and need the morning to study."
And the surprising moments it mentions when Dad huffed out the back door alone. It shows Tyler's persistence sometimes actually worked.
That physical reality of danger we mentioned, it's ever present, and nowhere more viscerally than in the accidents described.
Oh, the car accident description is harrowing. Tyler's eyes bulging as he took in every cut, every bruise.
Luke shaking, Audrey's nose described as strangely hooked.
I mean, Dad's immediate reaction, dealing with the power lines, pitching himself away, it's noted.
Along with the observation that he looked strangely boyish in that moment. It's an interesting detail.
Then Luke's severe burn is another really stark scene depicted in these pages.
The attempts to cool the leg, the thought of using the freezer.
And that image of Luke standing there, a sombrero on his head, a wool blanket around his shoulders, and his leg in a garbage can.
It's such a vivid, almost surreal detail pulled right from the text.
And Mother relies on her herbal remedies, mullein and comfrey salve, lobelia, blue vervain, skullcap for pain.
But the narrator's perspective, as written here, is clear. These had no effect on the pain.
This experience leads to a complicated feeling, described as respect, even reverence for pain itself.
Because the thought is right there on the page. If I'd had morphine that night, I'd have given it to Luke.
It's such a powerful contrast between the family doctrine and a child's practical empathy,
Absolutely. Venturing into the Gentile world, as they called it, was always cautious.
The dance class, for instance, the initial reaction to a leotard is quoted directly. It isn't modest.
And Mother's response, keep those in your room, not showing Dad it. It shows a quiet way she could sometimes bend the rules for her daughter.
A small concession, yeah, within that rigid system.
Charles, the connection to the outside through choir and movies, he highlights the internal conflict.
The narrator's fear about him visiting Buck's Peak, imagining his reaction to the root cellar, the fuel tank.
Seeing the rifle as a defensive perimeter.
It just reveals this deep-seated anxiety about trying to blend those two completely different worlds.
And then Sean's escalating violence enters the narrative in these excerpts.
The specific insults quoted SLT, whore. They're shocking to read directly.
And the physical descriptions are brutal. Hair pulling, dragging, sitting on the stomach, pressing a forearm into the windpipe.
There's that chilling description of the body's reaction. Like a dance step, my muscles remembered and raced to get ahead of the music.
Wow. That speaks to such deep-seated trauma.
And Tyler's intervention, simply asking what's going on, is described here as a crucial break.
An interruption of that pattern coming from the outside, yeah.
Sean's language is consistently used as a weapon in these passages, defining the narrator with names like wench, Wilbur, eyes like a fish.
But the use of the racial slur, nigger, stands out dramatically.
The passages describe the narrator's initial ignorance or even amusement, contrasted sharply with later horror.
And this realization is explicitly linked, right in the text, to learning about the civil rights movement, Emmett Till, Rosa Parks, MLK.
And grasping the historical weight. Someone had opposed the Great March toward equality. It's a stark moment of understanding gained through external knowledge, through education.
Stepping into the college world, as depicted here, is just a profound shock.
Confusion over the bubble sheet.
The overwhelming noise during an exam.
Seeing a roommate like Shannon and avoiding her as if her immorality might be catching.
It's just a collision of two completely different realities laid out on the page.
The academic struggles are described very candidly. Western Civ lectures being gibberish.
Misunderstanding the scale of the Holocaust.
The Blue Book exam confusion. But a small but significant step is seeking help from the algebra professor.
Something that this text says had never occurred to her before.
The physical toll is also detailed. Ulcers, shaking, pain.
This leads to using mainstream medicine like ibuprofen, although it didn't help the nerve pain described.
And the strep mono diagnosis forces this direct challenge to the family's anti-medicine beliefs.
We read the family's views right here. Mother thinking antibiotics poison the body.
and the idea that using them means a person forsakes God and relies on man.
These passages really show how deeply ingrained those beliefs were, creating immense internal conflict when faced with, practical health needs.
Which leads into that confrontation with her parents at Harvard and in the Sacred Grove, described as incredibly dramatic.
Dad delivers this powerful testimony, claiming to have beheld angels and demons possessing perfect knowledge.
And he reinterprets past events through this lens, notably Luke's burn.
Calling it God's plan, a curriculum for your mother. It's extraordinary.
The exchange over the consecrated oil is the climax in this section. Dad's prophecy is just chilling. Disaster lies ahead. It will break you utterly.
And God will not hear you.
The narrator's internal realization in that moment, stated right here in the passages, is heartbreaking. What my father wanted to cast from me wasn't a demon. It was me.
Devastating. And the final words exchanged. The narrator's, I love you, but I can't. I'm sorry, Dad.
Met with Dad's parting shot, it's better to sleep on a bench than with the devil. Just awful.
The immediate aftermath described is one of profound distress, standing barefoot on Oxford Street.
The mental breakdown captured in lines like, no matter how obvious it is somehow not obvious to you.
Thinking it's better to think yourself lazy than acknowledge the depth of the trauma.
And Drew's urgent email, quoted here, is such a sharp dose of reality from the outside. Warning.
If Sean stabs you, put in the basement and give him some lavender, calling the idea of returning home crazy.
Then Mother's email arrives about Emily's near-death birth experience, including her testimony of God working through her hands.
It shows the continued power of that family narrative, that interpretation of events.
And seeing those words, the passages describe, just turned my body cold.
A moment of clarity, though, arrives later, described as happening in the childhood floral wallpaper room.
The realization that home isn't something to be saved, but a maze. A puzzle whose rules I would never understand.
And the precious thing we read was the maze itself, the struggle to navigate it.
Seeking external support then becomes vital for survival, really. A turning point described is contacting Tyler after Grandma over in town's death.
Despite Mother warning the family, the narrator was possessed, dangerous, taken by the devil. That's intense pressure.
Tyler confronts Dad over the situation, which leads to anger, threats of disownment.
But Tyler sends a letter anyway. His unwavering support is beautifully captured in these passages. Available whenever I needed to talk, Stephanie becoming a sister.
And the difficulty finding words to thank him. How do you thank a brother who refused to let you go, who seized your hand and wrenched you upward? It's very moving.
Finding witnesses to Sean's violence, like Aaron, is another crucial step mentioned. Aaron's validation, you were not.
And her shared memory of the word whore. It serves as confirmation, as the text states, a witness, an impartial account.
That external validation against what sounds like family gaslighting is presented as critical.
Back at Cambridge, Harvard, working with professors like Steinberg and Dr. Carey provides new perspectives, according to these excerpts.
Dr. Carey offers those pivotal words about identity. You are not fool's gold. You are gold. It was always in you.
Yet, the passages reveal the ongoing struggle to fully internalize this, still haunted by memories.
The images that came to mind were of that girl in the parking lot. The core question emerges from the text. What is a person to do when their obligations to their family conflict with other obligations?
A return drive to Bucks Peak is described, hearing external rumors about the family millionaires, a fortress, firing employees based on paranoia like Diane Hardy.
It provides a different lens, showing the outside world's perception versus the internal reality she experienced.
And that encounter with Aunt Angie and Grandpa, particularly Grandpa's eagerness, who's counting, adds another layer of complexity.
Yeah, showing that connection to the past isn't uniform or entirely severed for everyone involved.
Synthesizing the understanding from these specific passages, we see this challenge to the idea that a person's first shape is their only true shape.
Right. The learned correction stated is, we are all of us more complicated than the roles we are assigned.
And this complex view is even applied when revisiting Sean's fall, considering the possibility that Dad's reaction.
Maybe not, maybe, in that moment, his love subdued his fear and hatred both.
It suggests people can contain multitudes, even surprising themselves in a crisis. It complicates the narrative.
Ultimately, these excerpts really emphasize the ongoing, difficult struggle to trust one's own memory and perception versus the accounts of others.
It's captured powerfully in that resonant line you sometimes find yourself echoing from the text. I don't know, I just don't know.
That moment, that willingness to embrace uncertainty, it feels like a really powerful place to land after navigating these intense passages with us.
Hmm.
We've seen how closely examining the direct text reveals the profound conflicts, the painful breaks, and the incredibly difficult path toward forging one's own understanding and identity outside a powerfully defined family system.
It truly highlights the immense courage required to question the stories we're told, not just by others, but the ones we tell ourselves about our world.
Definitely.